Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Siriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing well today. It's only a one-show week this week. We weren't able to record earlier in the week due to some other things that both of us had, but a lot has transpired, and we have quite a bit to talk about. Something happened like immediately after we signed off last week, so that's a bit of an overdue conversation, but we'll get to that, and we'll get to another managerial firing. We'll get to another Angels legitimacy check, and we'll get into the greatest managerial decision probably in history.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the biggest news of the past week has been, Joe Maddon was indeed fired. That was in the midst of a 14-game losing streak that was ended last night in the most Angels way possible, almost. Like, Shohei Ohtani gets the win. Shohei Ohtani gets a 2-run home run.
Then just Andrew Velazquez hits a home run.
Yeah, but like, the only thing that was missing was like a Mike Trout home run, but
he was also hurt. Yeah,
and then Raisel Iglesias gets the save, who is usually a little better than he is this season. But the Angels fired Joe Maddon, after their 14-game losing streak, they were 4 games below 500. Now they're 3 games below 500. So they just kind of crashed and burned for 2 weeks and fired Joe Maddon. And I mean, I don't know. What were kind of our thoughts on Joe Maddon?
I mean, I'll start with my thoughts just on the Angels in general. I think it's wild that Mike Scioscia managed the team for like almost 2 decades, and he retired after he resigned, I guess, after 2018. And since then, they are on their 3rd manager.
Yeah.
Like, the first guy after him lasted a year. The second guy lasted 2.5 years.
Right.
So they've had a lot of trouble in the manager department since the end of that big era with Mike Scioscia.
Yeah, like it's been interesting because it's kind of a weird balance of what's to blame here with the Angels, because, like, you know, since Mike Scioscia got fired, they've had since Mike Scioscia got fired, they've been kind of in the same position ever since then, like kind of a middle of the road 500 team, if I'm thinking back correctly. Like, yeah, that's been what they've been, and that's what they are right now in 2022, is a team that's, you know, hovering around 500. And, you know, it's sure an elite manager would do better with this team. If Kevin Cash was managing this team, maybe they'd be a little bit better. But there is a lot to blame with, and it's been talked about endlessly, you know, everywhere, is team construction. You know, they have 2, maybe 3 stars if you count Rendon. I mean, that was more kind of at the beginning of his contract, but you have 2 big stars, and they haven't been able to build around them at all. At a point, it was Mike Trout who they weren't able to build around. And I think, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess this 14-game losing streak kind of signified that in a way.
Yeah. The 14 game definitely did. I mean, like, this feels very similar, if not like parallel, to the conversation we had last week when the Phillies fired Joe Girardi. Like, they were hired within the same offseason, and ever since they started their tenure, we've just been talking about underperformance. That's been the conversation with them the entire time. right? Like 2020, the Angels missed the expanded playoff. 2021, they come in as definitely not division favorites, but division hopefuls and playoff hopefuls as well. They finished
Yeah.
under 500.
Yeah,
Like we're so conditioned to it at this point that it really doesn't get enough attention. Like I know that Mike Trout missed a lot of last year, but Shohei Ohtani put on the year that everyone dreamed of. And there were other good pieces to the team. Patrick Sandoval broke out when he was healthy. Like Rendon, he wasn't healthy either, but he was, good while he could be there. Same with Trout. Like they couldn't get it going. And they, at some point something's got to change because it's such a tired conversation, but it's valid that every single year is the same conversation of we need to get these superstar players like Taylor Ward to the playoffs,
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, with the Angels, like they're during that 14 game losing streak, they had the second worst weighted runs created plus, and it was like Mike Trout was struggling, and it was maybe kind of a thing of like, one of your and also Taylor Ward was hurt, who, he wasn't really expected to be anything, but he's been, like an all-star caliber player this year. However, like, Ward was out, Trout was struggling, so, and the rest of the lineup didn't really step up outside of, I'm looking at the stats now, outside of like Max Stassi and Matt Duffy, there wasn't really much stepping up from the rest of the lineup. Like during that losing streak, Andrew Velasquez had a negative 21 weighted runs created plus. Brandon Marsh struggled mightily with a negative 17 weighted runs created plus. Tyler Wade at a 43 weighted runs created plus. Luis Rengifo at 43. Joe Adell at 73. So there was just kind of a, if you can't have, when Mike Trout's struggling, you're probably going to need other guys to step up, and that wasn't the case. I mean, Shohei Ohtani did kind of what he could, but
Yeah.
He struggled in the pitching department for one or two starts, and was kind of average offensively as it looks. He had a 109 weighted runs created plus during the losing streak, but he inevitably was the main guy that snapped the losing streak because he was the winning pitcher, and he hit a 2-run home run. So yeah, I guess it's a thing of like they're just not deep enough.
Which is so wild. How much do you need? There's also the factor of that simply everyone else that's not the superstars have just been bad. Like you haven't gotten the production that you expected out of Joe Adell really ever. And we're starting to get to a point where we're actually considering like, is it time to move on from him? But like, I mean, also another thing you can just point to the fact that like Tyler Wade and Andrew Velasquez is your middle infield right now.
Yeah,
They're great defenders, but two guys that are giving you a 60 weighted runs created plus, like that's not going to cut it ever.
Yeah.
In fact, the Angels, the second base and shortstops on the Angels all year have a 60 weighted runs created plus. That's the worst in baseball.
Yeah, and this comes after an off season in which Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, Corey Seager,
Marcus Semien.
There's
several others. It was the
off season of the Javier Baez.
Yeah.
They were all on the market for the Angels to improve their middle infield.
And there was even like Josh Donaldson on the trade market, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa on the trade market. Like anything would have worked better than Tyler Wade and Andrew Velasquez as your everyday shortstop and second baseman. If you have one of them, so be it. You can't have both. You're not going to succeed in that scenario.
Yeah, like exactly. Like it's pretty ridiculous. And yeah, I'm looking at their salary, at value of guaranteed contract, which is basically their payroll, and they're at 149 million. That's 50. That's about 60 million below the luxury tax. They had money to to spend and not only spend but provide more excitement to the fan base and maybe sell some tickets, and sell some merchandise by getting Correa signed with the Twins. He didn't sign with a big market team.
No, the Angels could have used him if they were really desperate to go all in this year. They could have signed Correa as like a stopgap and be like, hey, let's just get this guy for 1 year. Like, it's only 1 year of having to pay him a lot of money. I know that we'll probably be over the luxury tax, but we'll probably get right under, assuming he opts out and goes elsewhere.
Yeah, how about we take advantage of the prime of two of the most elite players in baseball, and add another guy who's an elite player in his prime, in Carlos Correa.
Doing some more digging on these
guys,
because
when you go to the pitching side, it's also it's a bad turn through the rotation, but the guys having that bad turn are, I can't insult the Angels rotation too much, but there's not a number one besides potentially Shohei Ohtani. I guess Shohei Ohtani, you could consider him a number one.
I mean, Sandoval's been performing like an ace.
What was his last start?
Last start.
I just remember his ERA went up a good amount.
Yeah, but I mean, you could still I don't think there's any reason to believe that he's still at a 2.81 ERA and a 2.85 FIP. He's been performing like an ace this year. He hasn't given up a home run yet. Knock on wood. His last start was June 5th against the Phillies. It was it wasn't very good. 4 2/3 innings, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. Still not the worst outing though. 4 2/3, 2 earned runs. You still are in a position to win that game. It's not the greatest position, but it's possible.
Yeah, that's true. But
I believe he's pitching tonight.
Yeah.
We also have Lorenzen's been overperforming for them as well. Michael Lorenzen.
True.
He's at a 3.69 ERA, 3.85 FIP.
Yeah, I guess
That's
what I
solid.
would be saying is I'm trying to look at his salary also.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. He can't be the Angels aren't spending that much in the rotation. They signed Syndergaard to $21 million.
Something like that. It was a round qualifying offer.
So there's that, but Patrick Sandoval is currently in pre-arbitration. Shohei Ohtani's in arbitration.
Reed Detmers is in pre-arb.
Yeah, Reed Detmers is in pre-arbitration.
Lorenzen, they probably got on a 1-year deal.
Yeah,
that was less than definitely 10 mil. Probably even less. That's even an overstatement.
Yeah, and they had, the
1 year, 7 mil. Yeah, they're paying him $7 million.
And that was when the 2021 AL Cy Young was out there. Kevin Gausman was out there. Obviously, Max Scherzer was out there. Carlos Rodon, if they wanted a shorter term option, was out there. Mm-hmm. Even also in the trade market, there were potential. They could have snagged Sean Manaea if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But just haven't.
Marcus Stroman was out there.
Marcus Stroman was out.
I know that he's been underperforming, but he probably wouldn't. To be honest, he probably wouldn't fit into this Angels rotation right now. Everyone has been. They have 5 starters that have a above average ERA plus, and that's in a offensive climate that isn't very good. So it's probably harder to accumulate that.
Yeah, but I guess over a 162 game season, that's kind of hard to rely on. And if you're looking to have a playoff team, you want guys you can rely on in the playoffs also. And yeah, what we were talking about last week with the Angels was, at the time they had an 8-game losing streak, and it was kind of a bad turn to the rotation, and there just wasn't quite the stopper they needed for a little bit. Like it would have been nice if they could have had just like even just Carlos Rodon to be in the middle there to maybe potentially put a stop to the losing streak. But
I just want to say, and I think this is kind of like, I know that there's a lot of recency bias and a lot of people might be jumping off ship. And I think that you and I are both on the same page here, but I'm not giving up on the Angels this year. I still think they very much could make the playoffs. I think the division is probably over. They're already down by 9 games to the Astros. They're still in second of the division, which is really funny because everyone else has just been underperforming.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
But like they're 2.5 games out of the third wild card spot. Boston, they've been winning a lot of games. Cleveland has been, I think, overperforming. They're 27-26. The White Sox have been underperforming, and who knows how legit that is, because honestly, I'm kind of starting to see reasons to believe that maybe this might be, I don't think they're a below 500 team, but are they a team that could miss the playoffs? I could see it right now.
What, the Red Sox?
The White Sox.
Oh, the White Sox. Yeah, that's true.
Unless they do something at the trade deadline, which we'll have to wait and see on that one. But
yeah, very true. Very true. Especially if they hold on to management. But anyway, yeah, like I don't know, with the Angels, I don't know, like maybe it's recency bias, but I'm kind of losing hope. Like they got Phil Nevin at the helm. I'm just not I'm not quite inspired by that. I'm not quite inspired by the roster, especially if Ward is hurt, Mike Trout is potentially hurt. Is he like day-to-day right now?
He's day-to-day.
Yeah. So I guess that's
there's still a lot of season left though.
Yeah, but I just see I just see the Mariners kind of turning it around. I see the White Sox eventually turning it around. And I see the teams above the Angels right now just staying above them. And I think my assessment of the Angels being a third place team in the AL West and out of the playoffs, I think I feel like that'll be a correct assumption. I think that'll be they're exactly on track to where they will be in my mind, because I think the Mariners, I see the Mariners overtaking them. Like looking at their team, I think there's just too many guys that are underperforming right now. Like, just like Jesse Winker hasn't been hit. Like, I don't
Robbie
think...
Ray. Have you seen that stat, by the way, on like Robbie Ray's worst inning versus like every other inning?
No.
So Robbie Ray, every time he starts, he'll have one blow up inning. And someone, I'm gonna try to find this, but I want to say in his worst inning combined in every start, his ERA is like 20 something. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Here it is. Okay. So in Robbie Ray's worst inning of a start, he has a 24.55 ERA. And in every other inning, 54 and 2/3 innings pitched, a 0.99 ERA.
So yeah, the basic assumption with that is he always has one blow up inning.
Yeah. So
that hopefully would mean, if you divide that by 9, that's so he allows like 2.7 earned runs per
bad inning.
So like, that's about 3, which is like, he just has an occasional blow up inning. And I think like that's with the home runs, like when guys get on base, he's just probably allowing some home runs and providing some blow up innings for himself. Yeah, that's the Mariners. I mean, like, I think it's an eye should be kept on the Mariners. Like I think I'm gonna if they do eventually get hot and get near a playoff spot, I'm trying not to be someone who's gonna be like
All
surprised by that.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, they have had some solid performers. They've had some underperformers, right?
yeah,
Ty France has been awesome. JP Crawford's been solid. Julio Rodriguez is really putting it together right now. But like, I mean, you need to ask more from Jesse Winker. You probably could get more out of Adam Frazier. I know that he's not gonna be like the leader of that offense, but you could definitely ask more than a 241 batting average out of him.
yeah, very.
I'm not gonna ask too much out of the OBP and slugging because that just hasn't been who he is. The catcher position has been pretty bad. Like Tom Murphy was good for a while, but he went on the IL. Mitch Haniger has been out. It's tough for like Mitch Haniger. I know that he has had better days, but like that's the leader of this team. Like that's the vocal leader of the Seattle Mariners. You know, he had that article in the Players Tribune that came out over the winter last year about, you know, saying that we're gonna end this effing drought. Like when he's not there, it's tough. And he's been out. He's played 9 games this year. So, you know, they certainly needed a guy like him back just for the vibes, really. The bullpen also has not been a very good factor for them. Like it was like the reason they were in the position they were in last year at the end of the season was strictly because of their bullpen. Like people pointed to their bad run differential and their record in 1-run games. That was because they had a subpar offense and an amazing bullpen. Now they have a subpar offense and a subpar bullpen. And this is what these are the results we're seeing. They are 26-31 with that kind of talent. Like you got to expect better out of them. And I think that everything will come back up eventually. I don't know how much they are really capable of, but we're going to have to see.
Yep, very true, very true. But going back to the Angels, like, in terms of management, it's just like it's hard to talk about manager firings because you don't know how effective that really is. But like,
especially because mid-season, like very rarely do we see manager firings at this point.
That's very true. And very rarely is it with a team that's like there's still potential for them to be a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, usually if it's something like this, it's like it's like a team that's destined to be in last place. That's not the case right now.
But the only other, I'm sure there have been others that I'm just missing, but the only other mid-season manager firing that comes to mind was in 2018 when the Reds fired Brian Price when they started like 3-15.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the team I'm thinking of. But yeah, like with
so like the Padres firing Andy Green, but that was in like September and it just didn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
Like when there's still time left in the season is I guess what I'm referring to when I'm talking about mid-season managerial firings. Like if it's September and you're already out of the race, it means nothing to me.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, with Phil Nevin, like I'm, it's probably just another like Joe Maddon type in a way, except doesn't have as many cool quotes at the end of games. Like I don't know. And
I don't see that and get inspired, but I still think there's a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a chance. I don't know. I don't know if what the Angels need is like an excellent manager to utilize the team, or if they just need general management change in order to build a better roster.
Their current elimination number is 99.
All right.
So the countdown's on.
But yeah, so the Angels fired Joe Maddon, a team that's also underperforming and maybe would consider firing their boomer type manager. Well, I don't even know if he's a boomer or if he's the next generation after that, but he's literally 77 years old, Tony La Russa.
Oh yeah, no, he
might not even be. I don't think he qualifies as a boomer because
he's 77.
The boomer generation started where they were born in 1946.
He was 1944. Yeah, he's not even a boomer.
Yeah.
He was born in 1944.
Yeah, so
that's amazing.
Yeah, so outside of the boomer generation, but
he was alive when World War II was happening.
That's very true.
And he didn't do anything about it either, which is really disappointing.
He just sat there.
Yeah, like he was on this earth in 1944, and what did he do about World War II? He was just crying.
Yeah, he's crying all the time.
It didn't even have a job, probably.
Yeah, lived with his parents.
Tony La Russa has been a red flag ever since he was born, really.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
However, very into analytics apparently now.
This is like my favorite thing about this entire thing was like his quotes after the game and just the clear, like just the way that he's been treated for it. Like if Kevin Cash pulled this exact thing, like people would still clown him, but there would be a different reaction.
Yeah.
Like there's such a clear double standard when Tony La Russa tries to use analytics as a response to why he did something. Like Tony La Russa gets treated like a middle-aged dad trying to be hip and cool, like around his kids and their friends.
Yeah, it's very true. It's like, yeah, and anytime he tries to do, I could see that narrative. Like anytime he tries to do something new, somewhat new age, it's like
it's almost like he's trying to be parody.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, La Russa, you pulled your pitcher after 110 pitches. Like, stop trying to be so analytical.
Yeah. We should probably talk about what he actually did.
Yeah. Do you want to get into that?
So yesterday afternoon, the White Sox ended up losing to the Dodgers 11-9. And
yeah,
in the sixth inning, this is when really it all transpired. I'm just pulling up the exact box score so I can get this precise. But the White Sox brought in Bennett Sousa, who is a lefty, to face Trea Turner. And I just accidentally cleared my tab, so I didn't mean to. No, I didn't. Never mind. Anyway, they brought in Bennett Sousa, who is a lefty, to face Trea Turner. So the first pitch of the at-bat was, hang on, we might need to cut this. Okay, so the first pitch of the at-bat to Trea Turner was a called strike and a foul ball. So it's 0-2. 0-2 to Trea Turner. It's also, by the way, there's 2 outs in the inning and a guy on. The White Sox are already down by 2 at this point. Guy on first. And he throws a ball 1-2, and then he gets intentionally walked. On a 1-2 count, Trea Turner gets intentionally walked, and Max Muncy then hits a 3-run home run because there is exact justice in the world. Karma is real. God is real.
Yeah.
The baseball gods, at least, are real. And they did the perfect thing to this. And La Russa, after the game, was asked about the decision. Did you see his exact response?
I heard about it. I didn't see the exact response.
Verbatim, he was like, "Is that even a question?" Like, I swear to God, he was trying to be parody. Like, he was trying to be like, "Oh well, yeah, this is what you got to do. Like, you got to just pull out the most obscure stuff." So anyway, he cited the fact that Trea Turner hits well with 2 strikes, and Max Muncy doesn't hit well against lefties. So I pulled out the stats because, like, I promise you, Tony La Russa is not going to Fangraphs. I'm just gonna tell you that right now.
Yeah, probably not.
He's getting that from somewhere else. But Trea Turner, I looked at his stats every season of his career against lefties with 2 strikes. I decided to be a little more specific. In 2020 and 2021, he was very good, admittedly. 2020, he had a 149 weighted runs created plus. 2021, he had a 174 weighted runs created plus. But in 2022, he's been okay. He has a 105 weighted runs created plus against lefties with 2 strikes. And that's in 31 plate appearances. He's slashing 259, 355, 370, 725. So maybe I'll just give Tony La Russa the benefit of the doubt here for just a second and say that he's looking at the broader picture, the larger sample sizes of 2020 and 2021 as to why he made this decision. Okay, that's kind of weird. Max Muncy in 2020 against lefties as a whole had a 121 weighted runs created plus. In 2021, a 158 weighted runs created plus. In 2022, a 75 weighted runs created plus. So he's going off of the notion. So for one guy, he's going off of the notion that historically he hits lefties well, or he hits with 2 strikes well, but the other guy isn't hitting well this season, but historically he does. Like, he's going off of 2 different sample sizes for each of them, and it's just very inconsistent, and doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, do you understand what I'm saying here, Chris? I'm trying to explain this as best as possible, but
I'm following it all the way.
Yeah. Like, Trea Turner hit very well previously, but he's not doing it this year, but he did it previously. Max Muncy isn't doing it well this year, but he has done it well in the past and throughout his career, but he's not doing it well right now. Like, there's no consistency there whatsoever. And this is my favorite stat that I found in researching this. There is a 0% chance it was what was looked at in this case, but I would just love to live in a world where this is what we went with. So in 2022, Trea Turner with 2 strikes has an SOPS plus, which means a split OPS plus relative to the whole league, of 149. That means with 2 strikes, he is 49% above the average hitter based on league sample size. Now, Chris, would you like to guess what the league OPS with two strikes has been this season?
The league OPS with 2 strikes is like 521.
You are very close. It is, I believe, 512. I checked yesterday and it was 512.
Yeah.
Which is horrific. That being said, Trea Turner with 2 strikes has a 232 batting average with a 626 OPS this year. Like, not counting the headedness of the pitcher. So, like, you see the 149 SOPS plus and you think, oh, he's really good. He's not. He's better than average, way better than average, but the average is horrific and he's also just not good.
Yeah. I mean, this also makes me curious of like what Benesausa is like with 2 strikes. Because like,
I don't think Tony looked that deep into it. I think he simply looked into the matchup. But anyway, Max Muncy has had reverse splits his entire career. He hits lefties better. He just happens to not be doing it this year. But he also just hasn't been hitting well in general this year. But he also just came off the IL. So maybe he was playing with an injury. Who knows? Point is, it was a stupid move. There's no other way of looking at it. Like, if you're going to walk Trea Turner simply to get to a favorable matchup, A, walk him before you take the batter out, and B, just walk him before you even get him to 2 strikes.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. It's just like if you have to do this much analysis for a move, it's not worth doing. It's not worth walking a guy with a 1-2.
Especially with 2 outs and a guy on first when you're already losing. It's not like the game was on the line right there. Like you could make an argument that the game was lost there because the White Sox went on to score a lot more runs and thus the 3-run home run might not have happened and they could have won. But in that scenario, at face value, it doesn't look like the game is on the line.
Yeah, and like I'm looking at when like Sousa has a better slugging against when when he has 2 strikes on a guy, also like by 100 points. So,
But then why didn't Tony bring that one up specifically? But also at the same time, why are you going to like why like how can you have that little confidence in your pitcher? Like, oh shoot, that's a second swing and miss. We got to take him out.
yeah, it's so weird. Like sometimes like I think this term gets used it gets used the wrong way a lot, but like baseball common sense, like sometimes people will use it for like, oh, baseball common sense, you got first and second with nobody out, you got to bunt the guy over. Even if you have Mike Trout up to the plate, you got to bunt the guy over, bunt both of them over. Like that's not baseball. That shouldn't be used. But I think it would be considered baseball common sense not to intentionally walk a guy with a 1-2 count with Max Muncy on deck. Like first of all, like it's also what, it was the 6th inning.
Yeah.
So no sense in putting another guy on for Max Muncy to drive in when you have when you're ahead in the count. I just don't. It's
like if you're gonna intentionally walk a guy mid at bat, maybe it's like 2-0 and you're just like, yeah, forget it. And like that happens sometimes, and it usually doesn't get that much attention. Other than like maybe the home broadcast trying to market their guys being like, look at that, they're not even bothering at this point.
Yeah, even if it's a 3-2 count, and also like, hey, if it's a 1-2 count, you can just throw it out of the zone and try to get him to chase.
Mm-hmm. Like I know that Trea Turner isn't the best guy to try to get to chase, but I think like the next point that I was going to go to, and I'll just go to it now since we're kind of there, but I don't think Tony found this information himself. I highly, highly, highly doubt that. And I think most managers don't find out information like that by themselves.
Yeah, no.
Like there's an analytics department, Rick Hahn maybe found it, but I think before the series, the information was brought to Tony in the sense of, hey, Trea Turner hits very well with 2 strikes. So if you get him to 2 strikes, don't go straight after him. Like still be a little more cautious. Like treat it like I don't want to say treat it like you're behind in the count, but treat it like you're not ahead in the count. Like I think that's the context in which they were bringing that information to Tony. I can't imagine they were like, hey, don't even bother pitching to him with 2 strikes.
Yeah. Yeah. When it's one ball and 2 strikes, you just got to give him the 3 fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an over analysis, and it's like, yeah, especially with it's Max Muncy on deck. He's a great hitter.
I know that he hasn't been hitting well this year, but it's still Max Muncy. It was a small sample size, and he just came off the IL. Like, there's a reason to believe that he's a different guy than he was the rest of the season.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, man.
Yeah, but anyway, the fact that he homered just is proof that justice exists in the world. Like, everyone, made fun of the Angels for intentionally walking Corey Seager with the bases loaded to bring in a run, but they ended up winning that game. So it kind of so Joe Maddon got away with that. If Max Muncy struck out there, like Tony La Russa would have gotten away with this, and I'm very glad he didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
That was just dumb. Yeah. But the best part of it was just his response. Like he totally tried buying it. Like, I know that it wasn't authentic. Like if you just watch the video of his press conference, you can absolutely tell that it wasn't authentic in him defending his decision.
Right.
Like, he was trying so hard to be someone like Kevin Cash, someone like Alex Cora, someone like, just a guy who uses analytics heavily.
Yeah, very true.
And you could just tell that he didn't mean it.
Yeah, no.
You could also just tell how, because I remember he was like, do you know what he hits with 2 strikes? Do you know what the guy behind him hits against lefties? Like, he was asking those questions, and it's like, well, if you know, then why don't you tell us?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, at least give us a ballpark. Maybe like you don't have to know the exact numbers. Just being like, yeah, that guy's hitting around 330 with 2 strikes. Not even the case. But if you're so bent on, hey, this guy hits really well, what does he hit? Like, you clearly know enough if you made that move.
Yeah, you can't act like it's the obvious decision when you intentionally walk the guy with a 1-2 count. There has to be like obviously that's an unusual thing to do.
Yeah.
You have
Like,
to-
well, duh.
you
It's
can't
like,
have
are
you
you
can't be like,
telling me?
you guys are the weirdos for not knowing.
Are you telling me you would have gone after him and tried to get him out when you were
Yeah,
already ahead in the count by a lot?
yeah, you're gonna try and strike out Trea Turner with 2 strikes.
Like, even if you're still weary about his numbers with 2 strikes, like, pitch around him. Like, don't intentionally walk him.
Yeah,
Like, this is not a great, place to put your pitcher. This is not a great position to put your pitcher in, but be like, hey, kind of try to work around him here, and then we'll worry about the next guy.
yeah. I mean, that's the strategy with like any hitter on a 1-2 count.
Yeah.
Like I think it's kind of a rule, like a rule some pitching coaches have is like if it's 0-2 or 1-2,
Don't throw a
it
pitch in the zone. Yeah. Or
Um,
even if you're going to, don't throw it, right down the middle.
yeah, I wonder if I can find. Oh yeah, I can literally go on Savant 1-2 count. I'm going to go to league statistics this year.
I guarantee everything. Yeah, I guarantee it's like 60% out of the zone.
zone pitch percentage on 1-2 counts.
You could probably even go further and go 1-2, 2-2, 3-2.
Yeah, only I have to change pitch parameters.
Yep, to count, right?
Count. Yeah, 61.8% of the time it's out of the zone compared to when it's not a 1-2 count, it is. I have to click on all of these, but
I bet it's still out of the zone a decent amount.
when it's not a 1-2 count, but just for comparison's sake, like 61.8% of the time,
that is pretty excessive.
1-2 count, like that's above average compared.
That's nearly 2/3 of the time.
It's 50.1% of the time.
Yeah, that's a substantial difference.
Yeah, for sure. So like, yeah, just throw it out as this.
I also hate that this is like all the anti-analytics people are trying to be like, well, this is what the people want.
Yeah,
like this is the future of baseball. No one in the world has ever advocated for this. I tweeted yesterday, like, there are 2 instances throughout the history of baseball where it's understandable to intentionally walk a guy in a 1-2 count. One of them is you forgot that you were facing Barry Bonds midway through the at-bat. And the other one is you forgot that a pitcher was on deck midway through the at-bat. And even in the second case, like, you should probably still just pitch to him. Pitch to the 8-hitter or the 7-hitter if you're weird. If the other manager is weird.
No.
And guess what? Neither of those reasons are valid in 2022. There's no pitchers hitting, and Barry Bonds is 15 years out of the league.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty stupid. What was going on there? Yeah. And yeah, that's not like analytics is like maybe going with a righty lefty matchup because both guys have reverse splits, or like not bunting your guy over who's at second.
Because you're giving up an out.
Yeah. That's kind of the more advanced way to go about things, not walking a guy with a 1-2 count. It's just every time I say it, I'm reminded how ridiculous it is. All right, so that was a fun thing that happened.
That was an awesome. It gave us a good laugh for sure. Like, Chris, you need to go watch the press conference because it is just a thing of beauty to see him adamantly being like, "Do you know what he hits with 2 strikes?"
Yeah. It's like I can't believe how uninformed all these reporters are. They didn't check out the 1-2 data against lefties on Trea Turner before they asked these questions. Yeah, it's pretty wild. White Sox are 26 and 29.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, but when the move was made, Max Muncy yelled from the on deck circle, "He has 2 strikes, Tony." And then he proceeded to hit a 3-run home run, which is just absolutely chef's kiss.
It's so funny. And they literally lost by 2, which
Yeah.
after a 3-run homer.
It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Oh man. Baseball, huh?
Gotta love it.
Gotta love that baseball.
Gotta love it.
It's funny. In the White Sox lineup, as it has it on Baseball Reference, Jake Berger is the leader in OPS plus.
Here it is. I found it.
No,
I'm sending it to you right now.
but it's Tim Anderson, then Jake Berger for them. All right. Well, La Russa. So that's the Tony La Russa, Trea Turner, Max Muncy.
You want to look at the video I just sent you? I just sent you the press conference because
Or
it's
no.
like you need to. I want to see your live reaction to this because it's the funniest thing.
Okay, 1 minute, 1 second.
Yeah. 61 seconds.
Just want to ask you a question. Is there some question about I guess it one is the question. Do you know what he gets against left-hand pitching with 1-0-1 or 2 strikes? You know what he gets? Well, do you know what Muncy hits with 2 strikes against left-hand pitcher?
Wait.
Is that right?
And then he said, "Do you know what Muncy hits with 2 strikes?" It's like you don't just because you ended the at bat with 2 strikes doesn't mean you get 2 strikes on Muncy.
he may have just misspoke on that. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
He did misspeak, but either way,
Still, you get the point he was trying to make.
yeah.
That's him clearly. That's so funny. Like you misspeak like that. Like usually when you're getting defensive like that,
That's true.
which is clearly what he was doing.
Yeah, and clearly you could see that he's frustrated by like what, a year and a quarter of just being called out for like not being
in touch with the game.
Not being in touch with the game. So he's like, I did the
Which
thing.
to be fair, he's not doing himself any favors.
Yeah.
Like we've cited so many moments, like the shift statistics for Aaron Bummer, like that's something that should have changed a while ago. It still hasn't. This is obviously the biggest offense. There was the whole Yermin Mercedes Williams Astudillo thing that happened last year. Like Tony hasn't done himself any favors. Like I feel like this whole thing, especially last year, has gone exactly the way that we expected it would.
Yeah, he's like,
it's like, yeah, he'll have a talented roster that gets him to the playoffs, but he won't know what to do once he gets there, and that's exactly what happened last year.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I did the thing. I did the analytical thing. It would be like if he was like some, I don't know, like a police officer, and like there was consistently like shoplifting going on, and he did nothing about it, and then he just got one with like a bazooka.
Yeah,
like
it's like, whoa, dude, chill out.
Like I got the I got
the bad guy. Yeah,
solved the crime.
Yeah, I saved the world.
But very funny. I don't know. I kind of hope he just stays in the league. I think he's just funny to talk about.
It's just funny. I also just feel bad for that team though, because like he so clearly holds them back.
Yeah. Like the White Sox don't deserve this. Like
like Tim Anderson, Eloy Jimenez, Jose Abreu, Luis Robert, Dylan Cease, Lucas Giolito, like they deserve better.
Like we've talked about this a little bit, but like this team was perfectly constructed to be on a 5-year run.
Yeah.
Completely running the AL Central.
And we were talking about it like midway through the rebuild. Like usually you start talking about that towards the end of the rebuild when there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There was no light, and we were like, this team is going to be great.
Like they've had Tim Anderson locked up. They signed. Did they extend?
They signed Jimenez and Robert before they even stepped onto the field.
Yeah. They extended Robert and Jimenez before they ever stepped on a major league field. They have Giolito for a while. They extended Lance Lynn. They signed Yasmani Grandal to a 4-year deal. Like they have set up that team to succeed for a while, and then they put in this guy. Feeling bad for our friend Amy Crawford.
Yeah.
she of all people deserves better.
She absolutely does. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest thing to take away from this whole thing, really.
Yeah, Amy Crawford deserves better. She may be listening right now, and if you are, like, we're feeling bad for you.
We're sorry.
Yeah, we wish they, you deserved, I guess, what, an AJ Hinch hiring.
Yes, exactly that. Like he was
Yeah.
available. Like Tony La Russa was hired before AJ Hinch. It's not like they lost out on him and that was just their next best option. Like they chose him over AJ Hinch.
Yeah,
who is
Sam
now
was out there. Alex Cora was out there, but I don't think he would have gone to.
I don't think that I'm not even gonna count that one.
Yeah. It's
AJ Hinch is all you need to know, really.
Yeah. Yeah, he wanted to go to Chicago. And
yeah.
Straight
and
up denied. But
I say they, I really just mean Jerry Reinsdorf because Rick Hahn didn't want this. Nobody else in the front office wanted this, and nobody else has wanted it ever since.
Yeah, it was
like there's only one man who really wants him there, and it's the only person whose opinion matters.
Yeah, that's true. Like, yeah, Rick Hahn wouldn't just go out and like set up the perfect team to succeed for 5 years and then hire a guy that's you don't know how much longer he's going to be managing.
Yeah. Like they fired Rick Renteria the second that they had something. Like they were like, all right, this is going to be our guy through the rebuild. Like he'll just get us through these bridge years. And then once we have something, we're going to find our guy. And they had that all set up. And Jerry Reinsdorf completely ruined the whole thing by hiring essentially another Rick Renteria, but maybe worse.
Yeah. Yep. Very, very tough. Very tough.
Like this would never happen. But at what point do you think someone in the BBWA is like, hey, maybe we should rethink the plaque?
Yeah.
I don't know, like what if, I don't know, I'm just gonna, like, what if Larry Walker came out of retirement and went 0 for 2000? Like you would think people are like, well, he's not Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah. I mean, he brought his wins by replacement down by like 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's a very funny comparison. Yeah, I mean, if La Russa was managing the Angels, they would have lost 22 in a row, potentially. I don't know.
Shohei Ohtani would have bunted.
Yeah.
Oh my God, can you imagine him trying to manage Shohei Ohtani?
Oh yeah. Like,
he tries to like take him out of a game, put him at DH, and then put him back at pitcher.
Yeah.
Which actually would be sick. I've always wanted to imagine that scenario. Like imagine, hear me out, a game where this has definitely been discussed before, probably even on the show, but like Shohei Ohtani goes 6 shutout innings. He's in line for the win. He goes to DH, and then they bring him back into the 9th to get the save. Like that's technically possible.
Yeah, he's like the DH the whole game, and
he's no. He's the starting. So you know how there's the rule where he can be a DH after he departs. Like that used to not be a thing until this year.
Yeah.
Like imagine Shohei Ohtani enters the game as a starting pitcher. He like someone else is a DH. They make a defensive change to put him as DH. Maybe they take someone else out. Or no, they don't even have to do that. They just don't have a DH in the lineup until Ohtani becomes a DH. He never leaves the game. He's still in the game. And then he comes back as a pitcher in the 9th.
Yeah, I think that's possible because I remember the Rays like
they used to do something like that.
Before the 3-batter minimum, they would have one of their lefty pitchers like play first base for
like one batter.
Like one batter. But like I thought the rules of baseball was like once a pitcher was out, you couldn't put him back in. But I think
so. The American League adopted the Shohei Ohtani rule, which meant that a guy could be like you could just add a DH into the lineup afterwards.
Yeah. Very funny.
Awesome.
But anyway, I guess the last piece of news to get into. Speaking of DHs, potentially the best DH out there right now, Yordan Alvarez got a 6-year, $115 million contract. He's currently in his 3rd year of control. I believe. So I mean, it's pretty aggressive. I would say pretty aggressive coming from the Astros, because they weren't going to have to pay him as much as he was worth for the next 3 years, but they decided to give him. It's basically going to be a 3-year extension of his control, for $115 million. So they're going to have him through his age. Now I have to do the math. I don't know how old he is.
I didn't realize he was okay. So he's 25 now. That's honestly older than I would have thought he was.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's not. No, it's not. He was 22 in 2019. That makes sense.
Yeah. So he's it takes him through his age 31 season.
And he could still get a good contract at that point too.
Yeah, especially as a DH. Like, I mean, JD Martinez, I think after he was 31, maybe got a 110 million.
Yeah.
As a primary DH, and yeah, Alvarez is on that level or better. Like, could potentially be better.
I think this is pretty team friendly, but like it's not outrageously team friendly. It's not like a Ozzy Albies, Ronald Acuna, Ketel Marte type of contract.
Yeah, no, it's not like I wouldn't call it a robbery from any perspective.
No, like it's just it's a solid deal. I think maybe Yordan could have gotten more, but also like in this scenario, you don't have to worry about arbitration. Like you're set for the next 6 years. Especially with the injury history that he's had, you don't have to worry about a history derailing his value because he's getting 115 million no matter what happens from here on. And you could probably still hit free agency and get a decent contract. Like if he's going to be 31, a 5-year contract takes him into age 37, and he could get a similar type of average annual value if he stays at that type of level of production, which I think is entirely possible.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with Yordan Alvarez, like, I think this is a great deal for the Astros for sure. Like I think it is also team friendly in the sense that, like, this is not there's no potential of like this like holding back the Astros in any way, unless Yordan straight up starts severely underperforming, because age isn't going to be a factor in this contract at all. It takes him right through his prime, and he'll probably still be in his prime when the contract ends. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great deal. I think it's a fair deal all the way around, considering where Alvarez was at in his control, because like when you consider contracts like first year arbitration, like no one gets that much. I think the record for first year arbitration is like 11 million or something like that.
Yeah.
So, it's not quite that much. And then like, yeah, the rest of the contract. But yeah, Alvarez is getting close to 20 million a year in this contract as a DH and as a guy who's still only in his 3rd year of control. Yeah, I love it all the way around. I mean, you don't have to dig too deep statistically to show how good he is. I mean, just
he's one of like a pure hitter. He's probably top 10 in the league.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, a career 158 OPS plus, and when you look at exit velocity numbers and barrel rate numbers, he's red circles everywhere, near 100th percentile and everything this year, especially. Won an ALCS MVP last year. And the Astros are going to be so happy to have him around for what will end up being an extra 3 years. Houston, I think, and I don't know. I think like it reminds me that Houston, since like 20 maybe 14, have just been so good at
development,
managing the roster.
Yeah, like they keep the right guys around. Like you look at, obviously you lose Correa, but Jeremy Pena has been solid. I'm not going to say that he's been Correa level, but he's been a productive hitter and just overall a productive player throughout the year. Yordan is a type of guy that you're not going to see a lot of, and that's the guy that you want to keep around.
Yeah, there's not many. There's not many.
Pure hitting talent like that.
Yeah, it's just that would be extremely hard to come by, especially like I feel like guys like Yordan Alvarez, DH power hitting DHs, they're more like late developers, and he's already developed into one of the best hitters in baseball. Like if I'm thinking about guys like JD Martinez and Nelson Cruz, who have been historically like the best DHs of recent years, those are older guys, but Alvarez is he's already elite. And I'm looking at I didn't look at the contract breakdown of Alvarez. It says here on Baseball Reference, in 2023, he's getting paid $7.83 million, 2024, $10.83, 2025, $15.83. So they're basically simulating.
They front loaded it.
They're basically like simulating arbitration. And then the last 3 years, he's making $26.83 million each. So kind of like the Wander Franco deal. Like it's
okay.
They're kind of simulating arbitration.
So they backloaded it then.
Yeah, they backloaded it.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it in Yordan's case. Because the years where you would be expected to make a lot of money are those last 3 years, because that's your free agent years. And he's going to make 26 mil, you said, in those 3?
Yeah, 26.8.
Yeah. It's like he signed a 3-year deal worth, what's 26 times 3? It's like he signed a 3-year deal worth 80 million plus not having to worry about arbitration.
Yeah, very true. And with the opportunity to make a lot of money after his 30s. And like, if from Yordan Alvarez's perspective, like he's making $700,000 this year, you're going to take that money, obviously. Not going to wait another 3 years to test out free agency. Especially when you're hitting the ball the way you are right now. You want to take advantage of that for sure. And yeah, like just with the Houston Astros, they've just been like, I'm looking at their roster construction. They don't really sign a lot of guys. They don't really sign too many guys like past an alarming age. Like I'm looking at Jose Altuve's contract, goes through 2024, which is his age 34 season. Alex Bregman, they have signed through his age 30 season.
They got him quickly though, Bregman.
Yeah, they did.
They extended him very, very quickly.
Yeah, 5 years, 100 million. And like with older guys, they've done like 1-2 year contracts. Justin Verlander, they after they traded for him, they extended him for 2 years. A little while after, Michael Brantley, they've kept around on a pair of 2-year contracts. And everything's just worked out for them. They haven't really had any swings and misses, like
no,
at all.
They're just smart people.
Yeah, and like the only reason they weren't able to keep Springer and Correa around were like, I don't know, it's hard to keep all that talent around and all that.
No, and they've found replacements. Like they haven't recreated them, but they've replaced them.
Yeah, as you said, Jeremy Pena is that.
Right, they're surviving. Like their offense is so good that they could survive with guys like Jeremy Pena and like Chas McCormick taking their places. It's obviously not the same level of production, but everyone else is so good where they can, those guys are doing enough. Jose Siri also, they've kept Michael Brantley around, which has been very solid. You know what you're getting out of him. Kyle Tucker, they've obviously developed into a star as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been something for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the Yordan Alvarez deal. I guess it's time to get into players to highlight.
Yeah.
All right, so now we will get into our Friday, June 10, 2022 edition of who do you got for us today?
I got 2 players on How About That today. My first one, a lot of people have been talking about this guy. He's been otherworldly, and I don't take that phrase lightly. Alejandro Kirk of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's yours too, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I it felt obvious, but I couldn't not do it.
Yeah.
That's why I have 2.
Yeah, for sure.
So since May 24th, he is slashing 488, 553, 878 with a 1431 OPS. He also has a 603 WOBA and 305 weighted runs created plus, which is absurd. He is one of 4 Blue Jays players in history to slash 480, 550, 875 over any 11-game span with at least 45 plate appearances. The other 3 who have done it are John Olerud in 1993, obviously, Brad Fulmer in 2000, Carlos Delgado in 2000. He is also the 14th player aged 23 or younger to do so since 1975. The other 13, Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna Jr., Keston Hiura, Carlos Correa, Gary Sanchez, Bryce Harper, Jason Hayward, Miguel Cabrera, Buster Posey, Albert Pujols, Alex Rodriguez, Ken Griffey Jr., Frank Thomas. Like, that is all good company except for maybe Keston Hiura. But that is an elite level of talent to be in. Other than that, since May 24th, 24.3% of his batted balls have been at least 103 miles per hour and in the sweet spot, which means a launch angle of 8 to 32 degrees. That is tied for the second highest rate in baseball among the 204 hitters with at least 25 batted balls in that span. You know, we've talked so much about the Blue Jays offense and how lethal they are with guys like Vlad, Bo Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., the list goes on and on and on. But Alejandro Kirk has been carrying the offense over the stretch in which they are 10-1 in these 11 games that he's played in since May 24th.
He's also my How About That, can I just add?
Go right ahead.
And we'll do a group one.
Yeah.
So you went an 11-game span. I'm talking about a 27-game span because that's like he's been doing it for about a month, where he's hitting 378 with a 1080 OPS and a 208 weighted runs created plus. If you're doing that over a month, I mean, that's a very good trend. It is the first 27-game span of 2022 with a 1050 plus OPS and 8 or fewer strikeouts. Also in the span, his average ranks 2nd, his on-base percentage ranks 3rd, his OPS ranks 5th, and his weighted runs created plus ranks 2nd. In that 27-game span. His strikeout rate is the 3rd lowest in the span out of 170 qualifiers. Also, out of 265 batters with 50-plus batted balls in that 27-game span, his expected batting average ranks 1st, and his expected WOBA ranks 5th. And before his elite 27-game span, his line drive rate was 17.3%, but in this span, it is 32.5%, and his line drive rate ranks 15th out of 265 in that span. Also, overall this year, his whiff rate is in the 98th percentile, and his chase contact rate is 83.3%, which is way above MLB average. The MLB average for chase contact rate is 58.4%. So even when he's swinging out of the strike zone, still making contact. Also, along with that, in this 27-game span, his chase contact rate is 90.6%. And out of 214 batters to swing at 50-plus pitches out of the zone in this span, Kirk's chase contact rate is 1st. So Alejandro Kirk he's like, it was weird analyzing him because like he's just putting the ball in play a lot, and that's kind of where he succeeded. He's hitting the ball pretty hard as well, but a lot of his success is just putting the ball in play, which is kind of an old school way of going about it, but it's succeeding for him as he's had a 1080 OPS in 27 games. So Alejandro Kirk from both of us getting A.
Yeah.
All right, what's your second how about that?
So this guy is not an under the radar name by any means, but I came across this stat and I just had to share it. I'm talking about Jose Abreu, who the White Sox broadcast kind of alluded to something like this, and I decided to dig deeper into it, and it was quite incredible what I found. So Jose Abreu this year has had 41 plate appearances go to full counts, and he has 19 walks and 1 strikeout.
Ooh.
Yeah. His 19 walk to strikeout ratio leads the 7,664 seasons since 2004 with at least 20 plate appearances with the bases loaded. And this stat is completely irrelevant because, like, you know, that can only happen with a larger sample size, but I decided to share this anyway because it's fun to just a note. But he also leads the 15,179 seasons with at least 1 plate appearances with the bases loaded since 2002 in walk to strikeout ratio in a full count. Obviously, you need at least 19 plate appearances to even come close to that or to even attain that. And obviously, this is probably something that's not going to last because all it takes is 1 strikeout for it to be cut in half. But I just needed to appreciate that while we had it.
Yeah, Jose Abreu. That's a pretty funny one. All right, so that goes. Now we go from these highs to lows, talking about players and subjects that have been underperforming with our Friday, June 10, 2022 edition of
Slightly alarming.
What do you got for us today?
So I'm looking at Kevin Kiermaier today of the Rays, who just hasn't been getting it going. Since May 27th, he is slashing 136, 136, 136. That means very low batting average, no walks, no extra base hits.
Wow.
It's just been 13.6% of the time he'll hit a single, and that's the production you're getting out of him since May 27th. Both his OBP and his slugging are worst among the 189 qualifying hitters, but he has park adjusted statistics to thank for that because his negative 24 weighted runs created plus is only second to last.
Oh.
Yeah, shout out to Brandon Marsh.
Nice.
Who you alluded to earlier, Chris. He is making hard contact around the league level. I believe his hard hit percent around this time in this span is around like 37%. So it's kind of around league average, maybe even above it. But he's not making the right kind of contact. Over this span, 28.6% of his hard hit balls have been hit in the sweet spot, which is not good. The league average over that span is 40%. So, you know, even when he makes good contact, it's not where he wants it. It's either dug into the ground or it's popped up. It's not where it should be hit. So Kevin Kiermaier just has not been gotten it going. He also has a 34% strikeout rate, which is 5th worst among all qualifiers over that time. And when he does hit the ball hard, it's not going into the right place.
Yeah, Kevin Kiermaier.
Slightly alarming.
My slightly alarming is also someone who is just hitting the ball in the wrong place, one specific place. And I don't know, it seems like every year for the past 3 years, we've been talking about underperformance with this guy. And it's Christian Yelich, who, you know, is just, his OPS plus is back down below 100. And I don't know, it just hasn't been the same since, winning MVP in 2018 and being runner-up in 2019. It's been weird, but in his last 24 games specifically, and it's funny because like it seemed like there was going to be a comeback mounting. It was getting hot for a little bit, but he's gotten back down to cold. As in his last 24 games, he's hitting 194 with a 505 OPS. In this span, he has 2 extra base hits, 1 barrel, and 0 home runs. That's in a 24-game span. And that's, after he hit, 44 home runs in 2019, but 0 home runs in this 24-game span. Out of 179 qualifiers in this 24-game span, his slugging ranks 3rd worst, OPS ranks 7th worst, and weighted runs created plus ranks 9th worst. And out of 194 hitters with 50 plus batted balls in this span, his expected WOBA ranks 15th worst. So it's not really a thing where he's getting just very unlucky, and that's the reason he's not succeeding. His expected statistics are also pretty bad. Before this span, his barrel rate was 18.4%, which is very, very good. The league average is around 8%, 9%. But in this span, his barrel rate is 1.6%. He's only had one barrel in his last 24 games, as mentioned before. And his barrel rate ranks 13th lowest out of 194. And before the span, his ground ball rate was 46%, which is around average. But in this span, his ground ball rate has gone up to 70.3%. His ground ball rate in this span is the highest out of 194 batters with 50 plus batted balls since May 14. And before this span, his line drive rate was 23.0%, which is also around average. And in this span, his line drive rate is only 12.5%, which is the lowest out of 195 or out of 194 qualifiers. So he has literally in his last 24 games the highest ground ball rate and the lowest line drive rate in pretty much all of baseball, which is pretty bad. And hitting 194 with a 505 OPS because of it. So Christian Yelich,
Slightly alarming.
underperforming once again, unfortunately. But anyway, that does it for players to highlight. I guess we'll get into a preview of the weekend ahead. I will be looking at series to watch. Daniel will be looking at some day-by-day matchups. As in terms of series to watch, I would say there's not too much, but Giants Dodgers at Oracle. That's going to be very interesting to see. Giants are, this is a repeat, obviously a long-standing rivalry. Doesn't have to be explained, but also an NLDS rematch from last year, and two teams that should be in the playoffs this year probably. And then the other series to watch would be Twins Rays at Target Field. Twins coming off a series loss, I believe, to the Yankees. Did they get swept or no?
No, they won 2 out of 3, or the Yankees won 2 out of 3.
Yeah, so a series loss, but competitive against the Yankees, while the Rays just came off a series against the Cardinals where I believe they won that series.
Yes.
And
did you see that they played a sub 2-hour game yesterday?
I saw that was being alluded to. Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
1 hour 54.
That's very, yeah, love that. What do you got for some day-by-day matchups?
So tonight, there's a lot of good ones. Zach Gallen versus Kyle Gibson in Diamondbacks Phillies at Citizens Bank. The Phillies have not lost since they fired Joe Girardi. So that is absolutely worth noting.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm mad that White Sox Dodgers happened this week and couldn't have happened this weekend, because all 6 of the New York, Chicago, and LA teams would have been playing each other in interleague this weekend, because the Cubs and Yankees are facing each other at Yankee Stadium, and the Mets and Angels are facing each other at Angel Stadium. So we could have had it.
Oh, the double sick. Or all the double city teams facing each other. Yeah.
Yeah, and not in like same league or not intercity.
Yeah. Yeah,
3 seemingly random matchups that never really happened. We could have had that, but we do not. Anyway, Wade Miley versus Luis Severino tonight in Cubs Yankees. Aaron Ashby will be pitching for the Brewers against the Nats. Paul Blackburn and Tristan McKenzie will be facing each other in A's Guardians at Progressive Field. Jose Barrios will be looking to build off his last start, which is very good, against the Tigers at Comerica. This is a good matchup. Roansy Contreras versus Spencer Strider in Pirates Braves at Truist. 2 pretty under the radar, fiery young arms that are worth watching, I think. Drew Rasmussen versus Devin Smeltzer in Rays Twins. This guy for the White Sox that's pitching against the Rangers, his name is Davis Martin. He has a backwards name.
Yeah.
Martin Davis makes sense. Pablo Lopez versus Luis Garcia in Marlins Astros for the battle of who will be the worst team in 2013. Luis Castillo will be facing the Cardinals in St. Louis for the Reds. Tyler McGill is coming off the IL to face the Angels. They haven't announced a starter, but Patrick Sandoval's spot is due up. So that would be an interesting matchup. Chad Kuhl versus Joe Musgrove is a very good one. That's probably matchup of the night. Or no, maybe I didn't say it. I had a matchup of the night. Yeah, I guess that's probably it then. I accidentally just spoiled it. Rich Hill will be facing the Mariners for the Red Sox tonight in Seattle. Walker Buehler versus Jacob Junis in Dodgers Giants. Like I just mentioned, matchup of the night comes from Rockies and Padres. Chad Kuhl versus Joe Musgrove.
Yep.
Saturday, I know exactly what matchup of the night is, so I'm not revealing that one until the end, of course. In Rays Twins, Shane Baz will be coming off the IL to make his season debut. That will be intriguing to watch. How about this one? Hunter Green versus Adam Wainwright. Two very, very different types of pitchers.
Yeah.
Hunter Green has been pitching much better over his last few starts. The problem has been the home run ball, and he's kind of avoided that as of late. We kind of have a 2014 classic in Diamondbacks Phillies. One of these guys isn't particularly remembered for his contributions to the league in 2014, but you got Madison Bumgarner versus Zach Wheeler.
Yeah.
Zach Wheeler was in the league at that point. Eric Lauer versus Patrick Corbin in Brewers Nats. Tyler Wells will be pitching for the Orioles against the Royals in Kauffman. He's been pitching a lot better recently. Frankie Montas versus Zach Plesac in A's versus Guardians. Mike Clevenger will be facing the Rockies for the Padres at Petco Park. Mackenzie Gore will be pitching for the Padres in the second end of the doubleheader that's happening Saturday. Kevin Gausman will be pitching for the Blue Jays at Comerica on Saturday. Zach Thompson versus Charlie Morton in Pirates Braves. Zach Thompson has been pitching a lot better as well. Framber Valdez will be facing the Marlins for the Astros. Julio Urias will be facing the Giants for the Dodgers. Jordan Montgomery will be going for the Yankees against the Cubs. And Carlos Carrasco and Michael Lorenzen will be facing each other in Mets Angels. Lastly, Michael Wacha will be facing the Mariners for the Red Sox. He threw a complete game his last time out. Matchup of the night comes from Rangers White Sox. You have Martin Perez versus Lucas Giolito.
Like one who you expect to be doing well, one who biggest surprise this year probably.
Exactly. And then on Sunday, you have some good matchups as well. You have Cole Irvin versus Cal Quantrill in A's Guardians. Cole Irvin has been benefiting a lot from the changed offensive climate. Ranger Suarez will be facing the Diamondbacks for the Phillies on Sunday. Jose Quintana versus Kyle Wright. I almost put this as matchup of the night, but I decided to go with another one. That's a very good matchup in Pirates Braves. Jameson Taillon will be facing the Cubs for the Yankees in the finale of that series. Tarek Skubal will be facing the Blue Jays in the finale of Blue Jays Tigers at Comerica. You will have John Gray versus Michael Kopech. Michael Kopech has been awesome. He has a 200 ERA plus this season. We're finally seeing what we were hoping to see out of him for a while. Graham Ashcraft will be facing the Cardinals for the Reds. He has been under the radar in his last couple of starts. Might want to check him out. Carlos Rodon will be facing the Dodgers for the Giants. Herman Marquez versus Nick Martinez in Rockies Padres. Garrett Whitlock for the Red Sox will be going against the Mariners. The Sunday Night Baseball matchup will be Taijuan Walker versus Patrick Sandoval. Okay, so I guess he's not going on Friday then. Match of the day comes from Marlins Astros. Edward Cabrera versus Justin Verlander. And I say that because Edward Cabrera has been must watch over his last couple of starts.
He's been
96 mile an hour changeups.
Yeah, he's another reason why the Marlins rotation is no joke, and they just need to add that offense to make that team a playoff team.
Exactly.
Like, they're all so fun to watch.
Yeah.
wild that they've been able to attain all that talent. Well, that shall do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to our YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. If you are following up, or if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta, and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Kern. Follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. And we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on the next time we broadcast, where we will be talking all the happenings of Major League Baseball once again. We will see you then.